So today we're going to figure out how to derive the formula for the area of a parallelogram. So derive means how do you come up with this formula? So I drew a parallelogram just in case anyone forgets. A parallelogram is a shape where the opposite sides are parallel. So the top and the bottom and the right and the left, which means they will never intersect if they were to go on forever. Okay? So if you remember a rectangle, I'll just draw one up here. The formula to find the area for a rectangle, so I'm just going to put A for area. The formula is length times width. So whatever the length of it is and whatever the width of it is, you multiply them together, and that's your area formula for a rectangle. So knowing that, we can use that formula to find the area for a parallelogram. So what I'm going to do is draw a line. I'll just draw a dashed line from the top here to the bottom. Okay? So I made a triangle. If I cut this triangle off, which I'm going to do, so if I cut this triangle off, I can move it and make what looks like a rectangle. Let's cut this quickly so I can show you. Okay, so I have my little triangle piece that I just cut off. So I could take that triangle now, slide it to the other side, put it together, and now I have a rectangle. So that basically tells me that the formula is going to be exactly the same. But instead of length times height, because it's a different shape, we're going to give it a different name. So instead of length times height, or length times width, I should say, we're going to call it base times height. Because this is the bottom of our parallelogram, and this going up here is our height. So our formula for the area of a parallelogram is base times height. Okay, so you take the base and you take the height and you multiply them together, much like the rectangle where it's length times width. The only reason why we have to call it base and height, though, is because the base and the height make a certain angle. I bet you guys know what it is, though. What do you think this angle is where it looks like a corner like this? This would be a 90-degree or a right angle. So when you're doing base times height, the base and the height have to form a 90-degree angle. That's how you know that they're the base and the height. They have to make like a corner, okay? So you don't have to say base and height for these, for a rectangle, because they all make 90-degree angles, okay? So for a parallelogram, you have to specify the base times the height because they have to make a 90-degree angle. You can't do this slanted line. That's not going to be your height. All right, so let's fill out the notes keeping that in mind. The area of a rectangle, we just said, is length times width. We can use this formula to derive the area of a parallelogram. To do this, I cut a triangle off of the parallelogram and moved it to make a rectangle. So that's what I just did. The piece that we drew and cut off ends up being the base of the parallelogram. Another name for the width is the height. Okay? The base and the height always make what type of angle? We just said that, a 90-degree angle. So the formula for a parallelogram ends up being base times height. And again, those two measurements always have to make a 90-degree angle. When you're labeling these, you always put a 2 above the label because 2, if you remember from when we did exponents, means squared. It also means it's a two-dimensional figure. We are multiplying to find the area of flat two-dimensional figures, so that's why we put a 2 above the label. So let's try this one. Find the area of a parallelogram. So the base is 10, the height is 3. I know that because they make a 90-degree angle. 3 times 10 is 30. So 30 yards squared. Put a little 2 over it because you're multiplying two dimensions, so you put a 2 over your label. Okay, the next one. It's drawn kind of vertically, but same thing. You're looking for the two numbers that make the 90-degree angle. So that's 7.5 times 3. Now we multiplied fractions a long time ago. If you don't remember, step 1 is make your mixed number improper. So 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. So 15 halves times, make your whole number a fraction by writing it over 1. I want to see if I can cross cancel, but I can't. So I'm going to multiply across, and then I get 45 halves. That is in simplest form. You can leave it improper if you want. Centimeters squared. Okay? So make sure you have all that filled in with me. Okay, when finding the area of a parallelogram with a missing piece inside, you find the area of both shapes, and what do you think you would do? If I want to find the area of just the shaded part, so everything but the rectangle inside, I'm going to find the area of the entire parallelogram, the area of the rectangle, and I'm going to subtract the area of the rectangle. So let's put subtract here. So let's see. We have a bunch of numbers here. We need the base and the height for the parallelogram. Remember, they have to make a 90-degree angle. So this is my 90-degree angle, so 12 times 12. So 12 times 12 is 144 feet squared. That's the area of the entire thing. That's including the space that the rectangle's in. Now I got to find the area of the rectangle. That's length times width. 6 times 8, which is 48 feet squared. We want everything but the rectangle. So that means I'm going to subtract the two answers I got. I'm going to borrow a little bit. I get 96 feet squared. So I find the area of the bigger shape, find the area of the smaller shape, and then subtract the two. Okay? So let me give you some of these to try now.